Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you joining the webinar this afternoon for the effective use of permits to work at remote sites. I'm just going to leave it a couple more minutes just to see if anybody else is able to join us, as there were quite a few registrations, so I just want to see how many more are able to attend. So please bear with me for 2 minutes. Okay, I've just seen a couple of others join. Just to let you know, I'm just waiting just for another minute or so until we see if anybody else is going to join us. Okay, a couple more have just joined. So what we're going to do, we're going to start the webinar now. For those of you in attendance, on your webinar panel, there is an option for a tab for questions. So if anybody has any questions during the session, please just write in your question into the box, and my colleague Neil will assess the questions and then address them to me at the end of the webinar, and I can then answer them for you. Okay, so we're looking at the effective use of permits to work at remote sites. This is a topic that has come up from a number of customers over the years, and with the development of our new version 4 platform, we're going to be able to bring in some new functionality. So what we're looking at today is what the issues are with regards to permits to work at remote sites, and also I'm including lone working in that, and we'll look at how we are looking to address these. Okay, so here's a background. This is what we call a taste of what's to come. V4 is going to be released later in this year. And as I said just now, we're looking at including things that will enable things such as lone working and remote working to be more effectively covered. We're going to be introducing a mobile app that will enable you to work within the permit process via smartphones. At the moment, the system can obviously be used on tablets and laptops, but smartphones will be now included with a mobile app that we're developing. There'll be a new audit tool so that you're able to create your own questionnaires that you can make available through the mobile app. And when the questionnaires are filled in, they'll automatically be appended to the permit bundle and therefore logged in an audit trail. An example that I'll cover later on in this is things such as dynamic risk assessments. And there'll be a new lone working app that will enable on-site and remote lone working to be monitored, and any potential problems alerted to the authorizing person, or the AP, which is how I'll refer to them throughout the webinar. So we're going to look at how we propose to cover these requirements. They're not all available currently. Some of them are, and some of them are due for release in the current V3 platform, but others will be developed after the release of the new V4 platform. So what are the issues with remote working? You can't always provide supervision. So how do you know who's there? How do you know they've actually got the right equipment with them? How do you know they have the right RAMs and that they've read them and they understand them and will adhere to them? How do you know when a job has started and, of course, when it's finished? And what happens if there's a problem in the middle of a job? How do you go about issuing any required new permits to cover these intermediate activities? How do you confidently close out a job as completed and completed safely? And how do you manage lone working safely? So they're the topics we're going to look at today. So how do you know who's there? You can't know unless you're on site, but how can you minimize your risk and liability for workers that are working for you in a remote location? It could be something as simple as a bank automated telling machine. It could be up a radio mast. It could be on an electrical substation. Very rarely are you able to have APs on site. And if you do have to put APs on site, then maybe this application of these new functions we're introducing will enable that to be done remotely rather than actually on site. So there are three key things. Firstly, there needs to be a way of getting the contractor to confirm who's in attendance at the point of work. People can be specified on a permit, but unless you're actually physically there to see them, you can't be sure that the people that turn up on the job are the people specified. If it's not as per permit, you need to check that the attendees are compliant, their training and competency is correct for the job in hand, and this confirmation needs to be attached to the permit bundle for the job. So there is a record in the audit trail that the contractor has said, yes, we are the right people. How do you know they have the right PPE? Again, you can't know unless you're on site, but the required PPE should be listed on the permit. If there are any specific constraints or specific requirements, such as harnesses, and other special equipment, they should be listed on the permit, and the contractor needs to confirm that they have the PPE stated on that permit. And again, this confirmation needs to be attached to the permit bundle to go into the audit trail for the record should there be any issues at a later date. How do you know have the right RAMs? RAMs will have been approved for those of you on the call that already use e-permits. RAMs go through an e-permit approval process, and they'll be part of that permit bundle. But the key thing is having a document as part of the bundle is not the same as being sure that contractors can confirm they've read and understood the RAMs and that they'll adhere to these RAMs in the execution of the job. And again, this confirmation needs to be attached to the permit bundle and therefore to the audit trail of the record. How do you know the job has started and when it's finished? Again, you can't unless you know you're on site. Very often you'll have a permit that has a specific scheduled start and finish time, but a job could start on time but finish early. The contractor needs to advise the AP when a job is finished in particularly, so that they can be alerted and that job can be closed out. Again, this confirmation needs to be attached to the permit bundle as a record in the audit trail. But also for your own purposes, you can use the start time and the finish time for invoicing purposes. So you could cross-check against the invoice that's sent to you that the number of hours claimed was actually the number of hours done on the job. What if there's a problem mid-job? Sometimes a situation on a job requires extra work. You may need to have an isolation, so you could be partway through a job and realize that some additional work needs to be done. There are questions that need to be answered here. So, are the RAMs that are in place for the job that they've said they're going to do these RAMs cover any new work that may need to be done? Additional permits may need to be requested. There might need to be an example where we're examining something, we've been doing some work, and now we realize we actually need, for example, a hotworks permit to do a bit of extra work that's required to finish the job. So these additional permits need to be requested, approved, and added to the existing permit bundle. So for a remote job, this is a real issue and generates real risk. For an on-site job, an AP can actually go to the place of work and go through the process of raising permits should they need to. But at the moment in e-permits, once a permit bundle has been issued, it's locked down. So this will enable us to open up that capability and add additional permits to work in progress, particularly things like isolations and any other high-risk activities. How do you close out a job as completed? Again, you can't know unless you're on site, but the contractor needs to advise the job has been completed so it can be closed. They should advise also that the job was completed safely, and they could also identify if there are any health and safety issues that should be brought to your attention in their execution of the job. And again, this information needs to be attached to the permit bundle into the audit trail. The audit trail is a very, very key thing, as you will understand from your perspective, should there be any issues in the job or any near misses or incidents. And how do you manage lone working effectively? Lone working is high risk enough for the contractor, but it's also a risk for you, particularly at remote sites when you're not there to supervise activity that's going on. So if there is a problem, how can you know there is one that may need investigating? How can the contractor know that if there is a problem, help will be on its way? And any issues, they need to be logged and attached again to the permit bundle and the audit trail. And any actions taken to resolve the issues also need to be logged into the permit bundle and into the audit trail. So they're the issues we're looking at addressing. So some of the great new things that we've got coming up within V4 are the mobile app and the audit app that I've spoken to you about. There'll be a new PPE module, an ability to add permits to an already issued permit bundle, electronic approval and closure signatures. At the moment, once a permit's been issued, the permit itself needs to be printed, and then the closure process needs to be signed off manually, and then that permit scanned and uploaded into ePermits in the audit trail. We're now working to put together an electronic signature process that will still enable you to actually electronically sign the permits in progress, and then they'll all be part of that permit bundle at the end. And then finally, a lone working app or a lone working module that will also be developed. And these are just some of them. There are going to be other things coming through the system. We're going to be trying to turn ePermits into a full safe system of work. So there'll be other modules such as risk assessment modules, incident management modules, and so forth coming through the works over time once the V4 has been released. So with regard to the mobile app, what are we looking at trying to do? The new map app will enable ePermits to be used on smartphones and the ruggedized small real estate mobile devices. At the moment, ePermits can be used on tablets, iPads, laptops, and so forth. The issue we have, obviously, is the real estate on a phone, so we need to have the system rendered, and we need the new technology that's coming in V4 to enable us to be able to render screens so that it'll appear correct on a mobile device as well as any other device that's being used. So we're looking at being able to do things such as approve permits remotely or at the point of work. So as if you're doing hot works, for example, you must escort that contractor to the point of work, go through the safety checklist, and that safety checklist can be on the order, or can be on the mobile app. That checklist is gone through, and then you want to be able to approve or issue that permit at that point of work. We can request additional permits and isolations remotely. So where we were talking about the need to have additional permits or isolations, they can be done remotely on the smartphone by the contractor, and they go through the same approvals process through your people. And again, you don't need to be on site or at the point of work to approve these. You need to be able to close off the permits remotely or again at the point of work. So you go and inspect the hot works and you can sign off that permit on your smartphone and it's all logged within the system. Other things you'll want to do are things like completing dynamic risk assessments or safety or process audits. And you want to have those obviously attached to that permit bundle so they're a record of the tasks and safety precautions that have been done. We're going to be developing an audit tool within version 4 to do this. This will give us greater capability to manage the existing permit process and also effectively manage remote working. So we'll be able to conduct things like dynamic risk assessments and upload those to the permit bundle, log the start and finish times as we talked about, and confirm the right people are on the job. And there are some examples of this going to come through in this presentation. So, for example, if we're looking at dynamic risk assessments, we have an example situation where everything is compliant from a permit perspective for work to be conducted on a roof. The training and competency is all in place for the people, the right people are on the job, they have the right equipment and so forth. But on the day, there's heavy rain and a dynamic risk assessment is required to assess the risk before work can commence or not commence, depending on the results of the risk assessment. So the contractor can open the ePermits mobile app on their smartphone. They can download or open the pre-stored appropriate dynamic risk assessment that you've set for such a situation. They can complete that online and then upload the dynamic risk assessment to the permit bundle for the job. The DRA will be time-stamped, and any decisions based on that will also be logged for audit trail purposes in case of any near miss or incident. And a key thing is if there's no mobile connection where they are, they can still complete the dynamic risk assessment and it will be held and then uploaded automatically with the completion timestamp automatically when the connection is available. So we're able to get around any issues of working on a site such as in a basement. We'll also be looking at things such as logging start times and finish times, particularly for remote working. We're looking at being able to log these times and also GPS stamp the time the information is sent. Again, the contractor will open the ePermits mobile app and download or open the pre-stored job audit. They complete the start time and press confirm. The AP is then automatically advised by email that the job has started. And when the job is completed, they enter the finish time and press confirm. And again, the AP is automatically advised by email the job is finished and is ready to be closed out. This is particularly keen if, for example, I've submitted a permit to work between 9 and 5. I happen to finish the job at 2 in the afternoon. There is a 3-hour period in which the AP could come down, inspect, and close out the job before 5 o'clock. Without this ability, at the moment the AP is not alerted until the scheduled finish time of the permit is flagged up, and it moves the permit from an open permit to a permit that is awaiting closure. So this again can benefit the efficiency of the work for APs. We're also looking at GPS tagging. For example, if you're working on remote phone masts, this was a requirement from one of our customers. They want to have the start and finish times of the job logged, but also they want a GPS stamp it. So if the finish time is logged at the Dog and Duck 20 miles away, then you have some evidence to dispute the invoice. Now, it's not necessarily a huge amount of money for each case, but when you have lots and lots of jobs up lots and lots of masts, each 10, 20, 30 pounds added to a bill can result in an enormous bill at the end of the year for work that's being claimed for that's not actually done. So this has got some level of potential financial benefit as well. Of course, the contractors will be made aware that when they press the button, it is GPS stamping it as well. So ideally, you'd want to see the start point here and the finish point here as well, not at the Dog and Duck just down the road. Here's an example of a type of questionnaire. Now, this is just a mock-up. This is not any real view of what's coming through. We haven't yet started building that part of the app. This is the concept of what we're trying to put through. An audit for the time logging process can have additional questions added to it. And by answering these questions, the contractor is actually accepting liability for certain things before they start the job. So in the system, they will have a current time, and by clicking the current time, it'll then fill in the start time of the job. They're then presented with a number of questions, and these are just 3 examples. So, are you the person or the team specified on the permit? I can select yes. Can I confirm the RAM's been read and understood by all persons? I can go yes. And can you confirm the PPE is as specified on the permit? So this is now me, the contractor, actually confirming that all of these are in place and I'm accepting liability that this is what has done. Any no answer, I would not be able to confirm, and it will prompt the AP by an email there's a problem at the remote site, and they'll need to contact the contractor, ascertain why there is no answer in one of the boxes, and then update or revalidate the permit before it is issued. But if I select yes for this and I'm happy with it, and I press the confirm button, the system will then go away and it will then ultimately issue the permits, and I'm now authorized to start work. So you can see the value of this from a remote position. If permits are not issued to me, the contractor, so I'm not authorized to start work until I've accepted all the areas of liability. We're also going to be bringing out a new PPE module. This module will allow specific PPE to be associated with permits. So the ePermits will dynamically determine the PPE options based on the permit type, the service, and the location of the proposed work, in much the same way we currently manage RAMs, which are also associated with permit type, service, and location. We're looking to do the same for PPE. PPE will be required to be selected during the permit process before the submission for approval. So an additional part of that permit request process will be for particular jobs when specific PPE is required. The the contractor will have to select the PPE that they're going to bring on the job, and that will then be in that permit bundle and specified on the permit. This can be generic, or it can be from a specified asset list. One of our clients holds an asset list of all the PPE that their contractors bring on site, and that asset list is cross-checked against conformance certificates and making sure that everything is still valid, calibrated, up to date, and so forth. And so the contractor will have to select specific items of PPE to go on that permit, and they will be from the items that they've sent to the company, and we have actually approved as valid. So a very similar process to what we currently do for RAMs, but now applied to PPE as well. And much as the system won't allow the wrong RAMs to be used, the system again will not allow the wrong PPE to be specified on a permit. Much as in the current system, when I'm selecting a job to do, the only RAMs available that I can select are ones for that job in that location on that service that are currently approved by you, the customer. It'll be exactly the same for PPE. So that's going to be a valuable addition for some clients where this type of control is required. A new thing we're looking to do in the current system, and this hopefully is going to be available in July or August this year, is add permits for jobs in progress. Again, this is important for remote working, where you're not there to actually support the contractor on site. As we say in the slide, reality is always different to the plan. What we intend to do may not turn out to be what we have to do. So there can be situations where a permit, or another permit, or an isolation is required once the job has started. The new enhancement is going to mean that specific permits or isolations can be requested and approved and added to the existing permit bundle. Now, it's an enhancement, not a new module. So as an enhancement, once it's available, it will become available to all of our existing users. All compliance checks will still be carried out on the new permit. So are the RAMs that have already been applied pertinent for this new job that has to be done? Or do we need to submit new RAMs, or have RAMs for this particular piece of work already been submitted and have already been approved, in which case they can be selected? And it'll also track the training and competency of the contractors specified on the permit to ensure that they are also trained and competent to do this new piece of work that may be required to be done. It's not something that happens all the time, but it's an area that has been identified to us that does need some additional capability within e-permits, and we're looking to provide this within the next few months. A big request from the customer base has always been for electronic signatures, and again, we're planning to add this into the existing V3 system before it is all ported to version 4, but obviously it won't be available on smartphones as the mobile app is V4 development. Again, this is important for remote working where no one's on site and can provide the contractor with their support. So APs can approve permits even when they're not at the desk or even at their place of work. A good question to you guys is that good news or bad news? Do you really want to be approving permits while you're lying on the beach in Mallorca? The contractor can sign acceptance of the permits at the point or time of issue, and they can also sign the return of a permit when the job is done, again, electronically rather than on a printed copy of that permit that then you have to scan and upload at the end to put into the audit trail. 99.9% of the times it's always done, but sometimes something can get in the way. You forget to scan the permit, you forget to upload it, and then if there's an issue, it's hard to show that the audit trail was complete. This will tie down that particular gap in the system and ensure that everything is done electronically. The approver or the technical authority can also then sign off for closure at the point of work or from their desk or anywhere if appropriate. Excuse me. We're also looking at a lone worker module. As we said earlier on, it's a risk, but it's even more so at a remote site. So the concept of the lone worker module is to actually provide prompts to the contractor that will require a simple but a positive action by the worker to tag in. The app will be on their mobile device and it'll be associated to a particular permit bundle. And as you can see on the right, there we have a again, a mock-up screen of what it is we're looking to provide. An alert period is set by you as to how often you want checks to be carried out on the worker, and you can see that the next alert time here is set to 1930, and at the moment the time is 1929. When that moves on to 1930, then they are required that the mobile device will vibrate, it'll ring, it'll flash, whatever you want it to do, and that worker has to click the confirm button to confirm that they are basically still alive and still well. And that will then move on that lone worker time for the next alert period, which will be 2000. And that will then happen every half an hour or whatever time period you set to alert that worker. If at any point one of the alerts is missed, then this will generate an email alert to the appropriate AP or technical authority, and they can then carry out any investigation that's required. Again, this whole process would be logged within the permit bundle and the audit trail. So in summary, V4 to be released later this year. For those of you who are existing users, V4 will be released hopefully by August, September this year, but we want to come with the easiest way for us to move to V4 is complete some of the developments that we need to do in version 3, and then we can port the whole thing across. It's going to be, we found out it's going to be much easier for us to do this. So hence the slight delay in the release of V4, but there will be new releases and new enhancements coming through in V3 in the meantime. Our intention will be that when V4 does come out, it will be an exact functional equivalent to whatever you were using the day before. As such, it's going to be more of a GUI change, a user interface change. Buttons might not be in the same place as they used to be. Screens might look the same as they used to be. And that is a far easier problem to overcome than if, for example, we released a number of different functional capabilities at the same time. So we're putting the functional stuff in first, and then we'll get to a point where we'll move the whole functional capability into the new platform. And that new platform then gives us the ability to develop some of these new applications and modules that we've been talking through today. So hopefully this short webinar has shown you how we're looking to cover these requirements. They're not available in the current version, or some of them are not available in the current version. They'll be developed and released after the V4 platform. So if that's been of interest to anybody and you'd like to understand more, my contact details are there on the screen. I know many of you on the call know me already, so please feel free to contact me by email or by telephone, and I can give you a little bit more insight into the types of things that we're looking and planning to do. But this is just giving you an initial heads up as to what we've got planned, and there'll be other webinars coming up in the near future that take you through some of the other capabilities that we want to plan with regard to ending up hopefully with a full Safe Systems of Work tool, not just a permits tool. Permits will be key to that, but we're adding lots of additional modules to make it a full Safe System of Work. So if there are any questions, if Neil has received any, now is the time for you to flag them up to me, Neil.
No, nothing there at the moment, Richard.
Okay. In that case, thank you very much, everybody. If anybody, again, needs to contact me, my details are on the screen. If you have my phone number, by all means, give me a call. Thank you very much indeed for attending, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye-bye.